Welcome to An Hour to Give. This week, I know you're going to learn lots about an organization that has just recently rebranded. We're going to find out all of the details because Dan Fried's here as well as Kevin Darling. Hello, gentlemen.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to see you. Chair of Capital Prosperity Foundation and, of course, the president of Capital Prosperity Foundation. Is it okay that I'm getting used to the new words here, Kevin?
Today's the day.
Yeah.
Today's the day. This is out today for the first time.
Great. And why did you rebrand?
So there's a couple of reasons. Originally, the charity started off from Dan's group of companies as a legacy in the Ottawa area. And the CI of CI Foundation was Dan's group of companies. So as we grew and as we became, more aware of what we wanted to be and find our own cause, and move away from that private foundation into a public charity, we felt it became more important to have a brand that spoke to what we want to do, and that's create prosperity in the city of Ottawa. And then secondly, we have some new partners in our major donor group that also brought some vision as it comes to prosperity in Ottawa. So the timing was just right, and we're launching a brand new program, which you're going to talk about in a little bit, that I think speaks to that as well.
No, it's fantastic. Dan, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, okay, really busy business guy, community oriented. Why? You don't need to really, but it's in your DNA, right?
Oh, 100%. This is what I love doing. I love getting up in the morning and thinking, okay, what are we doing next? And there's no better feeling than when Kevin and I get off the phone with a potential donor and we just have that. He said, yeah, I'm giving you X amount of dollars. I love your idea. I love helping out. We're getting so much positive feedback. And I mean, Kevin grew up here in Ottawa, and I still live here. And the feeling of helping everyone is just amazing. Being able to give back to how fortunate I am and my family is, I love it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And when we think about a foundation, there's a lot of different sort of connotations that come with that. But explain exactly what the mandate of the foundation is.
So basically, in a few words, it's to give back to the families in Ottawa. So everything we're doing is affecting children. And that's what our board decided when we first founded in 2018, is that the foundation is here to give back to families. And we've had many different ways that we're doing it, and we'll talk about some of them later on. But I mean, the first one that we spent 3 years on was the Ottawa's breakfast program with OnFee. So we gave back over $300,000 to that over 3 years. So.
Wow. I love how it's just, $300,000. Because I know, Kevin, when this first started, you think about the impact you want to make, and now you're throwing around, $300,000, which you've ever imagined.
Well, let me put it in perspective. So I retired in December 2019, and Dan asked me to chair the board. So we got all kinds of big ideas, we had all kinds of events planned, and we were going to raise a lot of money. And what happened in March of 2020?
Right.
COVID. So you cancel everything. So then what do you do with a new charity? How do you make money, right? How do you create money? How do you create, that pool of money that you can go and do good with, right? So we got creative. The board got very creative. And we realized at the time it wasn't the time for us to create our own cause, which we're going to talk about later. It was how do we leverage what we can do and help children directly, quickly, and particularly with all the challenges of COVID. So that's when we partnered with OnFee for the school breakfast program. And at the time, and I'm pretty sure it's still the case, is there was some government matching of the funding, so it was a natural multiplier for what we could do. So we were confident that somewhat confident at the time that we could raise the money, but we were pretty confident. Dan and I have done a number of things over the years together that we've raised money for charities. We were confident we could do that. And we did. Our team did it. There's no question about it. They worked very hard in an environment that wasn't easy for anybody in those days. And when we looked at the timing, and we were talking about this before the show, things happen for certain reasons at a certain time. And we got involved with OnFee at a time where their costs went through the roof. The delivery of the program went through the roof. And I think it was a good thing for us to do at that time. The whole time we were looking at, we still need to create our own reason for being, other than just helping another organization. So that's kind of where we got to with it.
Yeah, I love that. And ironically, I just had a conversation with Heather Norris, of course, President and CEO of the Ottawa Network for Education, talking about the numbers pre-pandemic, feeding 13,000 kids. Now we're just about at 18,000. Those numbers are startling in this community. And I think a lot of people think Ottawa is a rich community because of the government town, but the need is real, Dan.
Oh, it is 100%. Good example. My wife's a teacher, and she teaches in Barrhaven, which we all think is a middle class area, and they just instituted the breakfast program last year. And so my wife had a good chat with Heather at one of the fundraisers, and just telling those positive stories that we see. We don't see this every day, and we don't expect it. We don't think that there's this massive need out there for it.
Yeah, massive need for sure. So give us a sense then. This is obviously created during and really starting up at a time when the world was closing down. You didn't let that stop you. The rebranding now in 2024. To think that was 4 years ago. I just quickly did the math.
It's hard to believe, right?
What? But to think that was 4 years ago just blows my mind. But where do you see yourself? If we're sitting down having this conversation, let's pretend it's 20, I'm going to go with 2034. Is that okay?
Sure.
Where are we in 10 years?
Well, 10 years, Dan will be chair. No, in all seriousness, we see this, you talk about throwing numbers around. And we don't throw numbers around lightly, but we see this as an injection to help children in the city of $1 million a year.
Wow.
That's where we see it.
Wow. You're okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited by it.
And here's what I know about both of you, because I've had the opportunity to interview with you both before.
Yeah.
You're like Energizer bunnies. I think people get energized by you. Is that also part of the DNA of the business that you do, Dan? That you really interject this, this community feel to the business side?
100%. So we're doing the golf tournament in May for the on-fee program, and I'd say 95% of the volunteers are from our company. So they're all excited. They were chomping at the bit to join us again. They couldn't wait to get out there and help and feel that they're contributing back as well. So it definitely is contagious.
May the 9th is the golf tournament.
It is, correct.
And
Yep.
you know why I know that?
I do.
Tell us why.
Because we have the best MC in the city coming in.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be asked. And in previous years I couldn't do it because of other commitments, but I'm thrilled it's on the calendar, it's locked in. Are you still looking for people to get involved?
Yeah, we have very, very few. We have about 10 foursomes left. We have a few sponsorship opportunities left. Generally, it sells out right away. So it's a neat format because we're sponsoring the breakfast program. It's a breakfast golf tournament. So we start at 7:30 a.m. with breakfast, and people are home by 3:34 kind of thing. At the latest. So you're home with your families, and we get a really good response. We're one of the few that does that type of golf tournament. It's a lot of fun. And Kevin and I, this is the first year we're not going to play in it. Unfortunately, I think
We'll see.
We haven't decided. We might have to kiss some babies on the golf course, say hi to people. But it's going to be great.
That's fantastic, and it's just so energizing to have an event as well and pull the community together. Who are you hoping to see there? What are you hoping that comes out of this tournament?
Well, we talk about how we started with the 1F&E, and one of the things we did last year was continue our commitment. So even though we're going out with our own cause, so to speak, we've made a further commitment for another 3 years with them for the breakfast program. So one of the things that we look at is identifying lines of funding for different programs within the charity. And one of the things we're very proud about is our actual cents per dollar that goes to the people in need runs around the 90-cent range, which in the charitable world is unheard of. And we can do it largely because, as Dan said, the majority of the people that work with this program are volunteers through his group of companies. So, we're just hoping that people come out and support the breakfast program. It's, you talked about the need, right? That's not undeniable, right? So, if you think about, and I've said this before, is you wouldn't try and drive your car with no gas. So why would you send your kids to school with no nourishment?
Yeah, it's so true. It's such an important thing, especially for those that have, of us that have children. You know what it's like, those little ones, going to school and wanting to make sure they're all fueled up for a big day. Give us a sense, you've got obviously this rebranding, which is an exciting day today. And what are you hoping that rebranding does for you?
I think I'd like to see a rejuvenation kind of after doing the same thing for a few years. You want to see a different people come in, different ideas, a different perspective on look at. We were focused very much with the breakfast program, and now we're on the general prosperity of Ottawa families and that. And with our partners coming up that we'll meet, I think it really opens up our network, gets different people involved, and gets people, challenge some other business owners to get out there. And we have a very generous community out there, and a lot of these people do things without any publicity and things like that, and I think that they should be recognized for it. I really do. It's something that we all need to do.
We often talk about this community and the ecosystem, whether it be businesses, and some people say, businesses and profit, and how come people aren't looking after social issues. I really believe it's all connected. Do you feel the same way?
100%. I mean, one of the areas that we haven't spent a lot of time on is individual donors, to be quite frank, and we will be going forward. But the majority of the success of the charity so far has really been corporate Ottawa. And I'm not talking big corporations. I'm talking, entrepreneurs, right? And one of the successes that we've been able to do is these entrepreneurs have come to the table and they said, look, I'll commit to X number of dollars for 3 years. So the one thing we can do, whether it be OF&E or our new venture, is provide that security of funding. So when we make a commitment, it's not we're making a commitment and hope we raise the money. We make a commitment and know we've got these corporate donors behind us, or these entrepreneurs in the Ottawa region behind us that have committed to that 3 years. And here we are into our second tranche of 3 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but I think 100% signed up for the next 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah, that speaks volumes, right?
Yeah.
Because they know that you're having impact. I think the biggest challenge that some of the nonprofits have is they don't show that impact. So you've had that great impact. Do you think about the impact on a daily basis?
100%, yeah, for sure. Like I was telling you the story before about getting a call while I was on holidays and having to help someone out, and that type of thing. It's just phenomenal. And watch my kids every day, and you see, wow, some people don't have this ability, and we're changing that. And then sitting talking to my wife around dinner table, and she's telling me the kids that are having the breakfast program were ones that you would never think needed it.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, yeah. So the short answer is 100% yes.
But there's a lesson in that for all of us, I think, in terms of just thinking you live in a certain city or you live in a certain community. It certainly doesn't mean that you don't have needs and the families aren't in need. You two are solving a lot of problems. We're going to talk about all of those solutions over the next hour today on An Hour to Give. You're going to bring a friend in. We're going to tease everybody, but OPS, we've got someone coming from OPS that's going to spend time with us today and talk about some new adventures with Capital Prosperity. Stay with us for An Hour to Give. And we are back on An Hour to Give. I promised that a member of OPS was going to be joining us, Ottawa Police Service. The one and only Sebastian LeMay is joining us today. Hello, Sebastian.
Hello, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
And of course, Dan Fried has stayed with us as well from Capital Prosperity Foundation. So how come you two gentlemen have come together, Dan?
Well, about 7 months ago, Kevin and I decided, and the whole board, we wanted to find a cause that was our own. And we went out and we were trying to think who has the most connection to people in need, immediate need in our society. And we thought, well, first responders, police. So we approached the OPS, and through various meetings, we kind of came together with a plan a pilot to see if we could make a difference in. And it ended up that the first group needs was the NRTs, so the neighborhood resource teams that are in. You can explain that a little more better than I can, but they are the group that it really deals with in the, what's the right term? Proactive way in neighborhoods. And so we developed a program a pilot program to see how we could help out these families the best and quickest way with the children.
And so was that a welcome call from you, Constable?
Absolutely. The NRT is the Neighborhood Resource Team, and ourselves as community officers, we work very closely together and very closely with the community as well. And definitely the support of the foundation has been great to help us build bridges. Oftentimes police, the interactions are not always positive during a time of crisis for members of our community. So to be able at community events or as a follow-up to certain calls that might have been a little bit more difficult for us to be able to approach these families with those amounts of money have been great, again, to build those bridges and make positive connections.
And give us a sense of how some of the funding would be used.
So essentially, what we've done is if we knew family and communities that could benefit, excuse me, from that amount that we were receiving, we would present ourselves to them, introduce ourselves, and simply give them a gift card and say, please use this as you wish. We've had a generous donator partnering with us, and here you go. At a larger scale as well, we've made applications to the foundation to get some funding for bigger amounts for bigger projects that have, again, supported the community. The last one that I worked with Dan on was to secure an amount to essentially rent a large inflatable structure for one of our yearly community events. And as minor as you might think an inflatable structure was, for the community it was a big thing, and it was a bit of a deal breaker in our whole planning to have that big thing in the middle of the park, and then have all the partners come together and members of the community, and then obviously the children to use those inflatable structures. So the support has been great.
And you think about something like that, it really is relatively a simple ask, but at the same time makes such a big difference. So in times of crisis, that trust has been built into the community. Did you ever think in a million years, Dan, that you would be part of this puzzle?
Oh, nothing. Never could have imagined it. I mean, the pilot program was designed really with two silos that we had of giving. One was a gift card program where the officers would get a $100 gift card to Walmart at the time now, and to anyone in need, they could drop it off to them when they saw that there was, someone didn't have groceries, for example, or someone didn't have the right lunch or things like that. And then the second part of the program was Make Your House a Home, we called it, and that was if the officers went in and felt that they didn't have a working fridge. Someone didn't have a working fridge, and so they would come to us and say, can you buy a fridge? So we would authorize that purchase, and we would facilitate it and have it delivered. And then the third one that came out was something like what Seb said, where they have the community events that to us was not a large monetary donation, but made such a big difference. We did that with bike helmets. They had bike rodeos, and we purchased, I think it was 2,000 helmets for the kids. And summer camps, we helped send some kids to summer camps, and through the City of Ottawa and the OPS. So many different things that we never thought would come out of this, and it really has really developed.
And you used the word earlier, Sebastian, proactive, right? I mean, I think it's about being proactive, being in those communities. So when they see an officer come to the community, it feels more like you belong there as opposed to you're just coming because there's an issue.
Exactly, and that's our role as community officers and as neighborhood resource team members. Even without these amounts of money, we strive again to be present in the community in a proactive manner and have those conversations that might not even be related to policing or to any type of disorder in the city, but again, to your point, to develop that relationship. But like I said, with those amounts of money, it definitely goes a long way to help. And Dan did mention some examples about the bigger projects. One that struck me as very relevant to, again, building those bridges, but also the safety, is one of my colleagues approached the foundation with an ask for an amount of money to buy some baby car seats. There was a group that was identified supporting parents that either didn't have the funds or didn't have the means to purchase proper car seats. And that, for us, obviously, as police officers, we have our role in the community, but we'll also obviously respond to car accidents. And it would be awful to deal with a situation where a child would not have the proper car seat. So that was a great one as well.
Can I spill all of my secrets today?
Yes, please.
My most stressful part of being a mom was the car seats.
would
Because, you know, those little kids grow, so you need a new car seat, and it can be a very stressful part. So relieving that for families, I mean, that's something I wouldn't have thought about in terms of a parent that maybe can't afford that. I mean, that's such a huge piece.
Well, and as a parent as well, I mean, I had you have the same worries, but imagine coming to the country and you don't even know that law exists.
Right.
And so we were able to purchase quite a few different sizes, and they can be reused for the length of time that they're allowed to be, the 5 years, I believe it is. But, you know, so these can be recirculated. I think we purchased 15 different types of seats for the whole community that can be moved around as needed. So,
Yeah.
you know, that if you don't know, you don't know.
Brilliant. I'm obviously not a police officer, but I can imagine that in many ways it can be a lonely job in terms of, you know, wondering, you know, you're out there and you do have to make some difficult decisions sometimes and some difficult interactions. But did you ever think that you would have a partner like this that really, you know, is kind of standing beside you, whether they're physically there or not, during some of these important discussions with community members?
We've had different, very positive relationships with different agencies, but for sure to be able to approach a family and say, would you like $100? And then their faces just light up is just, that's not something that I would have thought that I would have ever had the privilege to do or to give as a police officer. Certainly, as you mentioned, it is a stressful job. It's oftentimes, like I said, negative. We intervene in a time of crisis. For my part, again, as a community officer, and as well as most of our neighborhood resource team officers, we do see more of the positive aspect, and again, those community events and the different events where we can again interact in a positive and non-stressful or less stressful situation. But certainly, again, to have the foundation give us those cards, and then we go out, we identify the community members. I've personally reached out as well to community leaders, people that I knew that really had their finger on the pulse, and be like, okay, you tell me, please. You give me that list. You tell them that you have a friendly police officer that has money to give, and see if they want me to pay them a visit, right? And obviously, in 100% of the cases, it was a big yes. So to be able as well to engage with those community leaders and to again develop those relationships left, right, and center has just been very, very positive.
And the word gap keeps coming in my mind, because I think you're filling this gap that maybe some people didn't even know existed, that there's people that are just living their lives with no working fridge, or living their lives and they just need something to get them through until maybe a food bank visit or something like that. Filling this gap, Dan, is that how you see it, that you're really bridging these two communities together?
Oh, that's exactly it. And that's when we were looking for a gap to fill, right? And we filled this. And then I think when we started this, we didn't realize the gap was so big, that there was so many different options. Like we had pictured the gift card program as the first part, and then that Make Your House a Home. But then seeing 7 or 8 others kind of silos of verticals that we could help out with. And I'm sure as we go along this path, we're going to discover more gaps. And it's just really neat that we could approach the OPS with this and do it in reverse instead of OPS begging for help in the community. It's a great feeling.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Sebastian, but what would you say to Dan and to Kevin and everybody at Capital Prosperity about this type of donation and this type of partnership?
Obviously, a big thank you. Like you said, it's it's helping us identify some gaps as well, and it's just like I said, this whole segment, it just allows us to build more connections. Again, we are in our role to develop those relationships, but again, having that amount of money and having to see the relief on some of those families. You mentioned so many things that people can buy. I'm a parent of 2 children. Diapers comes to mind, right? Yeah. Like these diapers, you always you keep on buying some. So again, any family that I've given it to, I've kind of jokingly had a little wink with the kids saying, this might be for gifts, but it might be, mommy or daddy are going to have to figure out where they're going to spend it on, right? So all that has been very positive. And again, those bigger amounts that we can reach out to Dan and Kevin and say, what do you guys think about this? Are you willing to go? And for the most part, anyways, 100% on my part, my asks have always been approved. So that's very, very positive, very helpful.
I don't think we've turned down one yet. So knock on wood.
And on the flip side, what would you say to Sebastian? Because he's getting to, go to the community and really live out all the dreams of this funding, and to see how, these things are being used in the community, this funding's being used, but also the difference you're making. What do you want to say to Sebastian?
For us, it's an honor to be able to work with the OPS and to be able to help the communities, help us to show the community that it's not always a negative with you. It's a positive, and the differences we can make. And I mean, because of privacy, we obviously can't give names and stuff like that in the situations. But I mean, a lot of things in the news, we know in the background that we're helping. We're helping you guys make a difference and keeping us safe, and just amazing.
How can we learn more about Capital Prosperity? Where are you sending us for the website?
Capitalprosperity.org
Okay.
Is our website that gives you the most information, and all the contact is from there.
Okay, that's wonderful. And the opportunity to come in and share today, thank you so much for doing that, because I think when we see an officer and we see that this is the kind of impact, it's really important, obviously, to be able to have that moment. So it's wonderful to have you both here today. We're going to be learning more about this partnership in a few minutes as well, but it's wonderful to have you both here. And Dan, we're going to be chatting with Kevin again. Kevin Darling, how important has he been to this process?
Amazing. So when we founded this charity, we founded it in 2018 and really didn't do a lot with it for about a year and a half, and just trying to decide how we were going to approach it. And that's when Kevin retired from his real job, and I approached him. He's been a long time 30-year friend of mine, and so I said, Kev, he's got good experience on the board levels, and I said, listen, I need someone that's not just me driving this bus. I need some help, and he brought in it, and it's great because he comes in from the East Coast now. He's born and raised here, but he did retire out east, and he comes back, and I see him a lot now, so that's great. But his energy and drive helps keep me going too.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Constable, for being here today. Constable Sebastian Laprade joining us today, and of course Dan Freed as well from Capital Prosperity as the president. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We still have lots to talk about today regarding Capital Prosperity Foundation. I'm Sam Laprade. This is An Hour to Give. I know you're coming back. Stay with us. I'm Sam Laprade. Thank you so much for joining us here on An Hour to Give. We're focusing today on Capital Prosperity Foundation, and the one and only Kevin Darling is back with us. And of course, the chair of the board. That's a big job you have.
It's starting up like we did. It has been a bit of a challenge, and we talked earlier about the challenges when we started up during COVID, but we've got a very good board. We've got an excellent group of volunteers, and that makes things a whole lot easier.
Fantastic. And I know it makes it easier to have your friend with us. Thank you so much for being here today. Tell us a little bit about your role, and maybe introduce yourself.
My name is Jafet Masaruka. I'm a constable with the Ottawa Police. And my role, I work with the neighborhood policing. Basically, we're embedded in communities. We get to interact with people in the community on a regular basis. We have an intimate knowledge of the people that we deal with in the community. We're part of that community. We end up becoming part of that community. So that's our role.
And Constable, what community are you a part of right now? Are you going into a couple of different communities, or are you focused somewhere special?
My team is personally in the Carleton community. So that's Carleton, Caldwell area.
Yeah, very important community. I've done a lot of work in that community myself, and I find that community, because it's in the heart of Ottawa, many people have forgotten about that community. So thank you for being there.
Appreciate that. We enjoy being there, and we feel privileged to be part of that community because there's a lot of great people in there who are doing a lot of great work.
Yeah, agreed. And when you think about all of the work that Capital Prosperity is doing, partnering with the Constable and OPS on so much of this work, what does it mean to you to maybe drive by that Carleton area knowing that you're having impact in there, Kevin?
Well, it's, whether it's that area or the other areas, I mean, I think that there's a sense of pride, and not boastful pride, I mean, helpful pride. I think that, many of us have had success in our careers, and we're in a position to help. And I think really it's a responsibility of everybody to give back. So I think that it's really that sense of pride that you can do something. I mean, there's so many things in this world that you can't change, and we're not going to change the world on this, and we're not going to solve this problem. We're going to help, though.
Was the help welcomed, Constable?
At first, it was very surprising for everybody in the neighborhood to see us with gift cards, giving them some money to go shopping at Walmart. But it was very much welcomed. It was very much appreciated, and it was very much needed at times. I had people cry when they received the gift cards, just out of joy, because it came at a very timely moment where they really felt like they were back up against the wall, and I provided a gift card, and it completely threw them off, but also made them very, very grateful, and a real sense of gratitude. So it felt very good to be able to be there at a time when things weren't going so well for somebody, and be able to find a little bit of a way for them to kind of feel supported and then cared about, which was very huge. I mean, yes, there was a financial aspect of it, which was very big, very beneficial, but also knowing that they were cared about. That also had another impact, another level of compassion that they received at a time when they really needed it. So.
And let's be honest, there's people that have had interactions with police services, whether it be here in this country or maybe they're coming in, they're new Canadians, and that interaction with police has not been a good one. And there you come along with that beautiful smile and sharing this opportunity to lighten the load. I get emotional just thinking about it. You say there was tears. There was tears when you told me that you're handing them out, because I can only imagine being a mom, looking at little ones thinking, how am I feeding you today? How am I providing diapers? How am I making that connection? And you come along with a solution that must make your job a little bit easier.
It, in a way, it does make it easier, but in a way, it kind of makes you feel like there's more that you should be doing, and why haven't you been doing so much? Haven't you been doing this all along? The opportunity came up when they brought it to us, and it was an amazing opportunity. And to bring that to families, again, like I said, it was phenomenal. I was happy to be able to be part of it.
Take you back to 2018. You were dreaming about this foundation. What could this foundation look like? Where you are today, how far you've come. We've talked all about that. But when you think about the Constable talking about, this impact and the fact that there is a greater need, does that tire you out or does it spur you on?
And I'll speak for Dan as well. I think it spurs us both on, quite frankly. The stories that we get told. One of the things that I want to point out here about the officers is when we had our initial meeting with OPS about this, what people don't realize is these officers regularly take money out of their pocket to help people. So all we're trying to do is augment what they already started, really is what we're doing, right? Excuse me. So, at the end of the day, if I think back to when Dan and I first started talking about this program was not even in our sights until this time last year. So we brought it from an egg in an incubator to something that is tangible. And we didn't publicize the pilot we did, and we did that for a reason. And there's, nobody wants to go and try something new and have it fail. And because it was new, because it was new to OPS, it was new to us, we didn't know what the community reaction was going to be. We didn't know how the officers would take it. And, and we were talking about this earlier, some of the officers because it was a pilot, they were looking for the perfect opportunity to hand that card out. And it doesn't have to be the perfect opportunity. One of the phrases that I use with our group is helping people in need when they need it. And that's what these guys can do.
When you think back to the families that you have connected with, is there any story that stands out to you?
Oh, geez. I mean, I personally give out quite a few cards to different families, and I mean, all of them are very important. All of them stand out to me. There was a father who was having issues with his daughter, mother and father having issues with their daughter. She was having some mental health issues, and as we're talking, he had to leave to go to work. He didn't want to go to work. He said, I got to make bills. If I don't work, I don't get paid. And I noticed there wasn't much food in the fridge, and he didn't know where he was going to go beyond that. That's when I produced the card for him, and he literally started crying on the spot. He's like, I had no idea what I was going to do, and this kind of came at the exact time I needed it. Had another family where this lady had several kids, and they were packed into rooms, didn't really have proper places to sleep. And again, from there we went on to make a house a home, and we're able to get beds, a bunk bed for the family, which was amazing. She was surprised, didn't really expect us to provide that. I've seen people who I know, kids who I know, and families who are trying to play sports, but they show up to the community center and would have to find shoes to borrow. Right? So I approached that family and provided them with an opportunity for money to go to Walmart to purchase some new basketball shoes. And again, that family was surprised, completely surprised, and took full advantage of the opportunity. You know, and one particular guy stopped while he was walking along Caldwell. I knew him and I dealt with him before. And initially he was like, okay, what's going on? I'm like, well, you know, how are you doing? How are the kids? He's like, well, you know, they're there. I'm like, well, would you like some assistance, maybe helping out with some groceries or something to that effect? And he kind of paused, stepped back, and was like, I've never imagined the day police would come to me to give me money. And I'm like, this is your day. And he was surprised, very shocked. And right away he changed his direction. I know he went straight to Walmart because he walked in that direction. I was like, this is a chance for him. I know he wasn't working, but this is a chance for him to go pick up this food and be able to walk into his house with his girlfriend who was there and provide something. He's walking in the door with groceries or whatever else they needed at the time. He also had a young child as well, so diapers, whatever the case may be, right?
Does it make sense to you, Constable, that when I hear you talk, I hear the word dignity? It's about dignity. It's about walking in and being able to provide for your family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking at you and I think about all the tools you need to be a police officer. You know, you're obviously wearing your uniform. Did you ever think one of those tools would be a gift card?
Not in that way, but again, a lot of us that do this job, we do this job because we want to be able to provide something. And at the end of the day, we want to feel like we left an impact on people's lives, whether it's through a gift card, whether it's through our actions in any other way. But our purpose for most of us that I know at the Ottawa Police is to provide a place where we can, or an environment where we can actually help people and provide some sort of hope in that way. So maybe not so much a gift card, but something to that effect. And the gift card provided a great avenue for that.
For sure, for sure. And I mean, I think it's the idea that there's help there. And whether it be for one time, whether it be ongoing, whether it be something, make a house a home, I mean, all of those programs are so key. Walk us through how else you're hoping to sort of grow this program.
So, and I heard you and Dan talking earlier, is we really headed out on a two-prong effort here. One was the gift card program, and the other was the Make a House a Home, which was originally started by the Hoopsters, was it not? During the pandemic to help kids with desks, and but it just didn't have the funding kind of to take off, right? So that was the original discussions when we met, is how can we help in those two areas? And you know, through the passion and dedication of the officers, they would come to us and say, well, what about this? What about that? So what started as a 6-month, two-prong pilot ended up with about 5 or 6 different silos. And I heard you talk earlier about the car seats. That was a really good one. And then that was generated by one of the officers for Newcomers to Canada in particular. One we did, we sponsored all the helmets for the bike rodeo. We gave out reflective, but LED, not LED, the little things that you crack that light up for Halloween to kids. We delivered those to the schools. The officers do a helping hand at Christmas time, and they try and feed 100 families. Well, and you know as well as anybody, the donations to charities are down. There's no question about it. And the officer that was in charge of this, Chris Lalonde, I believe was his name, was getting concerned because traditionally they had no trouble raising the money to feed 100 families, and very close to Christmas, it didn't appear they were going to hit their target. So it was sent to us can we help? And we had been thinking about this at the same time, so we reached out to Chris and said, we'll make up the difference. And then he told me his story. And he grew up in one of these communities, I believe, if I remember the story correctly. And he told me a story of a young man that was one of his volunteers, and he was a troubled youth and didn't think that his mother, he was a single mom, his mom didn't think that he'd graduate high school. And just because of some of the instances he was in. And so Chris took an interest in this young man and kind of mentored him a little bit and got a note from him saying, I graduated. And not only did I graduate, I got a job. So how can I give back?
Wow.
So he was one of the biggest volunteers, not money-wise, but putting things together, helping deliver, those types of things. So, when you talk about what happens with this and how it pays back, that's teaching the next generation as well.
Excellent. Really, really appreciate that. It's so impactful for sure. It's been so great to have you both here today. Thank you so much. Appreciate it very, very much. Kevin Darling and, of course, Constable Murka, thank you so much for being here as well.
You're very
Appreciate
welcome.
it very
Thank
much. And, of course, we're not done yet. We're going to be talking more about capital prosperity when we return on An Hour to Give. And we're back on An Hour to Give, and I'm here, of course, with Dan Freed and Kevin Darling. They are back because we have lots to talk about with Capital Prosperity. You guys are doing some great work. We spoke with OPS, and we spoke with two incredible constables that are really engaged in this project. What do you think, Dan, about this partnership and how far you can go with this? I see it as endless.
Well, that's exactly it. It can constantly grow. Like Kevin was alluding to the $1 million, and there's no reason it can't go. That's what we want, but it can go further. It's a partnership that it's a win-win for every person in this. You know, it's for the foundation, for OPS, for the final people who receive the donations. The partnership has been just amazing. It's really rejuvenated both Kevin and I. I speak for Kevin there, but I mean, it's amazing. There's really no other way to say it. Yeah.
I found I needed tissues listening to the constables about the stories that are coming out of the impact of these donations. Is it emotional for you, Kevin?
Yeah, I would say no question, right?
Yeah.
And I go back to what I said earlier. I mean, a lot of us are very lucky. We had good careers. We had, our families are well. They never had to worry about food. They never had to worry about a place to live. Didn't have to worry about their safety. So, from our day-to-day perspective, we don't necessarily understand that somebody that has to worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the minute you can help somebody that has to worry about that stuff, it's important.
Yeah, 100%. And that kind of impact, I think, we've shared this before, but that kind of impact about a community that people think, if you think about all of Canada, they think this is a rich part of Canada. And many people would be surprised that, the fridge isn't full and they're looking for diapers and they're looking for things just to keep their family on, on an ongoing basis, making sure those daily needs are met.
Yep. I mean, just that the car seat was a perfect example. I never even thought that was something that there was a need for. And the fact that we are able to put food in the fridges and a fridge in the kitchen is emotional beyond belief.
It is emotional for sure.
Well, one of the stories was last summer. So we did day trips for the kids in the Carlington area at the community center. So they go to the community center and spend their summer days there. But there's not a lot of funding in that program to do anything. So what we did is we came up with trips every Wednesday in the summer, whether it be Museum of Nature or bowling or something, and we covered transportation and mission and snacks and things like that. So one of the trips, they asked Dan and I to come down and have a picture with the kids. So we get down to Science and Tech, and the bus starting to unload, and these kids are coming out and their eyes are this big, right? They've never seen anything like this. And so we get talking to the lady that was running the program, and I said, so do you get all the kids from your community? She says, no. And I said, so tell me about this. And she said, well, it's basically $5 a week. It's a subsidized program for the kids to go. And she says there's probably 10 or 15 kids that their parents, that $5 has to go to food or house or whatever. So we were in between meetings, and we'd gone for lunch and sitting there, and I looked at the bill, and I said, that's a kid all summer.
Oh, you're going to make me cry.
So what we said is, okay, why don't we develop one of the silos we talked about earlier is why don't we develop a program where we'll subsidize the kids that can't go. So we had that sponsored in days.
Yeah, if not
right? Yeah. So for the next 3 years, we have each of the 3 areas that the NRT teams cover. We will sponsor 10 to 15 kids all summer for those programs. And those are individual donors that came up and said, I'll commit to 3 years.
We talked about dignity earlier, and I'm hearing the word enriching. You're enriching these lives, increasing their quality of life. I mean, a summer is really long for a 7 or 8 year old to be hanging out just at home. when you can have these enrichment programs and really the cost, Dan, come on, I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah, the cost is so minimal to us, and again, it goes back to that, we're just able to give back, and for me personally, the community's built my business, and I can give back for pennies, and to me that is just phenomenal.
Yeah. Now, I don't know about you, but I love giving people things to do. So let's give people things to do today. How do you want someone listening or watching us today? What do you want them to do about Capital Prosperity Foundation?
First, go to the new website and take a look at it. I mean, our partners, one of our major corporate partners is TAG here in town, and their involvement in a lot of things.
Very much.
Anyway, they've helped us a lot with this new website, and I think it's state of the art, to be honest with you.
Phenomenal, yeah.
Anyway, it really tells the story, and it's actually got testimonials. You want to find out more about people we help? Read the testimonials. But what do I want them to do? Donate. Okay.
Share it with friends.
Yep. Yep. Share it with friends. Get the awareness there. So, whether it was a mistake or not to promote this during the pilot to gain momentum, we felt it was the right thing to do. So right now it's gaining momentum. So the more people that see that website or go onto the LinkedIn page or go on to, I think we're on Instagram too, correct?
Yeah.
Go on there and share that. Get the awareness out there, right? And, the more people I think that are aware of the needs of these communities, the more people, and, it doesn't have to be a big donation. Give what you can, right? Give back what you can.
I think you're in the same vintage as me, so I'm going to try this out. Do you remember that commercial where it was I told two friends and then it was the hair commercial?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm visualizing. I'm a very visual person. So that's what I'm visualizing when you say, can you share it? Can we tell more people?
Very
And
much
to your
so.
point about it not being a big donation, I'm thinking like, I could donate $50. My friend donates $50, and then we know that gift card or that $100 is going to look after some kids for
Exactly.
school or a family, or go back to them, make a house a home project. I mean, we're not talking thousands of dollars necessarily.
No, and with the fact that so much of that every dollar goes right into the community, it's not a 50 cents on the dollar. We're talking 90 cents on the dollar that's going to these communities. And I challenge all my small medium business owners to help us out as well in the communities that help build them. Give back.
And it's such a good point, because as the chair of the board, you want to have your hands on, to know the most impacts being made and all of that. But encouraging other people that are in these leadership roles to step up, that's also, I think, a big role that you're playing.
Very much so. Very much so. And it goes back to the old adage, if you don't ask, you don't get. So, I'm a big fan of asking. I ask, and somebody tells me, no, that's fine, I'll move on to the next person. But I think when you realize, and you talked about it earlier, that living in one of the more prosperous communities in the country and having spots in this town that need the help that we can provide, that's the realization you've got to come to, is that it's not all sunshine and rainbows for a lot of these folks, right? So, how do we, and again, I go back to the comment I made earlier, we're not going to solve the problem. We're going to help. But everybody watching this, or everybody that visits that website, can help.
So I'm going to go back over 3 decades.
Okay.
If I was to go back 3 decades and say to you, you two are going to come together, and I'm going to get emotional. You two are going to come together and change this city, what would you have said?
No, I don't have time.
Yeah.
I would say you're right, because we get caught up in our careers and young families. It's different now. Dan still has a relatively young family. Our kids are grown up. So I have the time. I've had my career. I have the time to give back. But no, we met each other 23 years ago, give or take, and by chance.
Yeah.
And this is where it's got us.
How'd you meet?
I was bartending at Delta Hotels in Ottawa, and,
I love
and
it.
Kevin was a customer.
I was relocating from Winnipeg to Ottawa for my job, and I was staying there a week out of every 2 weeks a month while I was changing jobs. And he's far too modest. He was doing the bartending job to cash flow a small business.
Oh, wow.
His first business.
Yeah.
And then he had a business plan for a new idea, and he gave it to me to read, and I said, this is perfect. Exactly what you should do. And that was the first start of CI.
Way back when.
Way back when.
Yep.
And we've often today spoke about future plans. Where do you see yourself, Dan, in a decade?
That's a big question. I don't see myself retired, for sure, not yet. I definitely do see myself enjoying family a little more, but I see myself taking a much more full-time role in the charity. That to me is what gets me up in the morning, puts a smile on my face, and you know, it might give me some gray hairs, but I think I'm well on my way anyways.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we all are, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my 10 years, I see, yeah.
Yeah. And just working together and having this opportunity to do this together. And we talked about, I'm going to bring one friend, I'm going to bring another. You're all doing that, creating this community within the community. We've got the big event, of course, coming up May 9th, which we talked about. Anything else you want to share with anybody listening, watching today as a way to get involved here today, Kevin?
So there's other events that we do. I mean, the big one is the breakfast tournament, because that's what this is year 3 or 4 for us. Year 4 for us.
Sorry, year
3.
Sorry.
So we've grown it to the point where it's sold out every year. So it's time to do something new, right? So what we're looking at is doing a similar event in the fall, another golf tournament that will support specifically the OPS. So keep an eye out for that. You'll see some of that. One of the items that we did last year as an experiment was a black box dinner at a local restaurant where you don't know what you're having for dinner, and it's a large portion of the cost goes to the charities. We raised $5,000, I think, that night. $15,000. Sorry, $15,000 at that. So it's kind of unique events like that. Dan and I have some bigger dreams on some other events, and we'll keep those close to the vest for the moment. But there's certainly the plan here is that this, we have a large reliance on our corporate donor, and we appreciate them and thank them. But we also have to find another way to fund this as well if we truly want it to grow, because this project with OPS is completely scalable. The more money we can raise, the more good we can do. So, that's our goal.
It's a beautiful place to leave it. Thank you so much, Kevin Darling, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Kevin, of course, Chair of Capital Prosperity Foundation, and Dan Freed is the President. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm hoping we've inspired you today here on An Hour to Give to look up Capital Prosperity Foundation and get to know how you can get involved. The incredible impact that they're having in this community warms my heart. I'm Sam Laprade. This is An Hour to Give. We'll see you next time.